Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to talk to you guys a little bit about stalls, linear progress, and all that stuff as far as your training goes, and to remember not to get discouraged by some of these things. So let me put on my +5 out of weaponsmithing, do a little bit of crafting, and let's talk about this. All right, this is a really important topic because, a lot of people get sold certain ideas, certain so-called experts out there try to tell people that they're always going to just make amazing progress, or this product or this program, that they're never going to stall, they're going to make nonstop progress, and all sorts of sunshine and rainbows and a pot of gold at the end of every rainbow. But let's be realistic as far as training goes. That's kind of a false idea that a lot of people put out, because you know what, guys, the truth is progress isn't linear. Stalls are normal. Sometimes even a little bit of regression from time to time is normal. And it's not something to get upset about. And just because you've stalled, you need to remember that it doesn't mean that you've done something wrong in your training. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you're on a bad program. Stalls happen. Happens to everybody, and it's going to happen to you over and over and over and over. And it's going to happen more often the longer you train. And the reason this can be a little disenchanting for some people is because when you come into the gym, everyone makes gains. If you train hard, the weight goes up on the bar, you get stronger, you will get bigger, you will get stronger week after week after week. And like I've said, we've even got studies that show that doing 3 sets of lat pull downs and 3 sets of bench press with a moderately heavy weight every week for a novice will make their arms grow as big as possible. Their arms don't even grow faster when they add curls in, or tricep extensions. Why? Because as long as they're adding weight every week to a lat pull down and a bench press, their arms grow about as fast as possible, because linear progress happens when you're a noob. Your body's not used to training. It will grow fast, it will adapt fast, and pretty much if you just train hard and just keep getting stronger, every single muscle in your body grows. You tend to recomposition easier. A lot of people even lose fat. A lot of guys, when they come in as noobs, they start losing fat. Even if they're clean bulking and gaining a little bit of weight, their fat goes down, their waistline gets smaller. It's this golden, magical time when there really is a pot of gold at the end of every rainbow. And the whole world is full of fairies and unicorns because it's a magical time. That first 6 months in the gym, when most young men start training hard, the gains come in like they're on steroids. They really do. They really do. But invariably, they start stalling. And you know what? All these people will try to sell them magical programs that if you just do this and you do that and you take this post-workout recovery shake and get on this particular split, those gains are just going to keep coming forever. But the truth is they're not. And it's because the human body works on a diminished return system. But it goes beyond that. There is an ebb and flow of things as well. Recovery curves and growth curves in the body actually start to come in waves and bursts the longer you've been training. And it's really interesting to observe. If you observe it enough years in different people, it's really kind of an interesting pattern to watch, but it is the way it works. But as far as time periods go, everything works on a diminished return scale, meaning if you gained X amount of muscle and strength in 6 months time training, during that golden period, that time, that magical period of noob gains, the next 6 months after that, you can expect to only gain about half of what you gained. And the next 6 months after that, only about half of what you gained in the previous 6 months. It is a complete diminished return scale. Every time you've been doing something for X amount of time, you're going to get about half what you got out of the time before, the same time period, approximately, if you're doing things right. Now, if you're doing things inefficiently and incorrectly, it might drop to 20%, 25%, not half. But the thing is, within those windows, people rarely stall in the first 6 months. Again, unless they've got other issues, mobility issues, health issues, joint inflammation, something else preventing it, or they're dieting hard. They usually don't stall much, if at all. It's just linear progress all the time. But then when you start seeing those diminished returns, what people start noticing, they do hit stalls. They start hitting points to where if they're not eating enough for the scale weight to go up, every single lift they do stalls across the board for a month straight. Or one lift goes up and another goes down. And I think that's one of the things that frustrates people, because they know if their lifts are going down on a certain exercise, they're probably not gaining any muscle. And the problem where it gets more complicated when you're dealing with the recovery of multiple exercises, you're going to start seeing periods like that to where it gets confusing and upsetting, because you'll see 2 of your lifts completely stall, but another lift for one of those muscles go up, and it's because you're dealing with different recovery patterns and stuff going on. And your body, again, doesn't work in just a flat fashion in recovery and adaptation. It feels like you do when you're a noob, but you don't then. There's even an undulating wave of your gains and stalls in there, but you're gaining so fast that you barely notice it as a noob. The longer you train, you start to find that this progress is not only not linear, stalls not only happen, but regressions actually happen. And that's the reason periodization was developed, was for a number of reasons. Actually, one of the reasons periodization was developed was obviously to slow down these stalls, but it's also a psychological component. Because if you're running everything in 3-week blocks on different rep ranges and you always progress through those 3 weeks, you always feel like you're making progress because you seem to avoid the stalls in performance. But the thing is, your total tonnage and workloads might actually still be stalling in there, and you might only actually make real gains in one of the 2 weeks in a 12-week block. And at the end, when you test your max, it's up 5 pounds. So you've made gains, but you maybe didn't actually make gains for the entire 12 weeks. You might have actually had 2 weeks in there where you regressed slightly. But because they run it in these progression blocks, you don't see it. And when you don't see it, it doesn't affect you negatively. And so there's a little tidbit there a lot of people don't always think about when coaches put people on various block progression. That is one of the things that is notable, is the psychological difference. That's one reason that people on undulating periodization or concurrent training who are mixing rep ranges through the week, that is one disadvantage to it, is the psychological component, is they're going to notice their stalls a lot more often. They're going to see when they stall. They're going to see when they regress slightly and they lose a rep or lose 5 pounds on a lift. And it can be disenchanting for some people. But you know what? It shouldn't be. You need to understand that that's normal. Just because you see a little regression doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. It could be as simple as you're choosing not to gain weight right now. And there's plenty of valid reasons for someone to say, I don't want to be bulking right now. I want to be staying at the same body weight, or I need to lose a pound or 2. And of course you're going to see regressions sometimes, particularly on certain upper body lifts. When that happens, that's normal. But it doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. You're doing what's appropriate for your goals. But that is a big difference with a lot of block periodization. It masks those stalls. Because if you take a 3-week block and you're working with 10 reps and you're increasing, you're starting conservative, because you tend to stall about every 3 to 4 weeks. You tend to regress usually at week 4 oftentimes. But when people are running a lot of block periodization, that first week is the easiest. So if they actually stalled in that point, and a lot of intermediate lifters, that's where they'll stall in that block. If they've stalled, they don't notice it because they're using a lighter workload that first week and they don't see it. And then they increase it and then they go up and like, aha, I got stronger during that 3 weeks because all my lifts went up. Because you increased weight on the bar, or you increased reps during that 3-week period over the course of the second and third week. And then you reset it, you drop down to 8 reps, and the first week is easier again. So if you stalled or got slightly weaker during that week, during the different peaks, you don't notice it. And that's okay, because those lighter weeks still feed into growth, and they work their way up, and ultimately at the end of the 12 weeks, they see a little bit of progress. They got better. They got better during the 12 weeks, but they had weeks in there where they lost strength. But because the timing of the periodization is right to accommodate that, if it was well written, they don't see the strength loss. Therefore, they don't get the psychological discouragement. So that is a factor for people to think about when they are selecting programs too. If you're one of these people who psychologically do get discouraged by the stalls and regressions, you might want to look at block periodization a little more, because it can help you with that. But if you're one of those people who can step back and accept it, and you understand that, you know what, in the real world, you're not going to progress all the time. Sometimes you go 12 or 13 weeks without progressing in the gym, even if you're trying hard, even if you're on steroids. And that's a mind blower for a lot of people out there. Guess what? People on drugs even stall sometimes. People on drugs even regress sometimes. They're not in a world of puppies and rainbows all the time either, because their bodies still have limits. Their body can only handle so much drugs, and so much drugs only yield so much adaptation. So even they have to deal with it. But if you're one of the people who can accept that fact, that, you know what, as long as I'm getting better over a certain time period, that you're looking at the long game. You're not looking at the short game. You're looking at the long term. What am I getting out of this 6 months down the road? What am I getting out of this a year down the road, 2 years down the road? Because that, you have to think in those terms once you've been training a while. Noob gains are all about what you're getting every single week. It's about now, 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 now. But once you get through that phase, it does become about the long term. And if you can psychologically accept that stalls happen, occasional regressions happen, and you're not discouraged by them, then you're probably going to be okay with some of the more undulating style or concurrent style training that's out there, to where you are mixing rep ranges on different days in the same weeks. It won't bother you, but you do need to assess that in yourself and look at that and try not to get discouraged by stalls. But if stalls really demotivate you, regressions really demotivate you and affect your ability to train, and they really shouldn't, but that's easier said than done. It's real easy to say, hey, that shouldn't get to you, it's normal. A lot of you guys are going to go, fuck you, dude, that's real easy for you to say, I'm going through it right now. Well, if you're that person, then adjust your training to a style to where it masks it. And things like 12-week style block periodization is a fantastic tool for hiding that from the lifter. And that's something some coaches have learned over the years. They don't always talk about, but they do know that that's a way to keep their lifter motivated, because the lifter only sees the progress all the time, because every 3 weeks you get better. And they don't realize that maybe they got worse in week 1 of the 3-week block each time, and they very possibly did, or they stalled, but they hide it from them because of the way they do the progression. And it's a great way to mask that for the people who really and truly do get demotivated by that, because we're all humans. We're not machines. Our emotions and our feelings and our thoughts will absolutely affect our progress in the gym. That's reality. And your training style should reflect that. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.